that
British
were massacred.
culture. It's not British culture to call for or appear to endorse the idea of violence.
And it's also not
that is
British
not the sort of culture
to
that I
try
want
to
to live in.
silence someone. It's also not British culture to try to silence someone
Inciting
and put them in
violence?
and putting them in prison
Inciting
over a
violence?
deleted tweet.
Inciting
that is absolutely
violence?
ridiculous.
You think that that's...
At first, this sounds like a debate about free speech. But Lewis Goodall isn't really arguing about speech at all. He's testing whether the reasoning behind these claims remains consistent once they're challenged. And that's where this interview becomes far more interesting. Rather than making counter-arguments, he simply asks the kind of questions that force every claim to stand on its own.
I have gone to the left. If you see most of my Instagram posts, I've gone to the left and I've asked them questions about their thoughts on migration and things like that. And I'm always met with so much hostility.
Yeah.
I've even been called an N-word by one of the Stand Up to Racism organisers for simply asking them why Christmas was racist. So they're very hostile, and that's not a nice way because to live your life, just because people on the right are very warm and welcoming and always willing to answer questions. So it was
People on the right always warm and welcoming?
Yeah, my personal experience has been that way. I haven't come across anyone who has been as hostile towards me.
The opening argument is built almost entirely on personal experience. Those experiences may well be genuine, but Lewis doesn't dispute them. Instead, he quietly shifts the discussion toward a much bigger question: whether individual encounters are enough to support broad conclusions about an entire political movement.
Like I have on the left.
I mean, for sure. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, obviously, particularly online life, you and I both know there's some pretty sharp edges. I think in every political direction, in fairness, but there's certainly some pretty nasty people on the online left, just like there is in my experience on the online right. But I think I'm just intrigued even by your description there of kind of the event, and you hear this on the right a lot, you know, and I've heard it from Liz Truss. This is a place for patriots, for, you know, patriotic people who believe in their country. People on the left are just as patriotic as you, aren't they? They just believe about doing different things to achieve the best for their country.
Yeah, and that's why I made sure to stay today that I don't believe in things like left wing and right wing anymore, because at the end of the day, one thing I realise about the left is that they do want to fix the country. However, they have a completely different strategy on how to do that. And I think where they're going wrong is they think that we need to become more progressive and we need to abandon the traditional values like capitalism, democracy, even.
This is the first moment where the conversation starts pulling in two directions. She says the labels of left and right only create division, yet almost immediately explains political differences using those very same labels. It's a subtle contradiction, but Lewis recognizes it straight away.
Free speech. I mean, these are values that built this country, but they almost want to shatter the foundation and build something new.
Someone like Andy Burnham doesn't want to abandon democracy, does he?
I just don't think he's someone that is fit to lead, in my personal opinion.
But he believes in democracy.
I mean, I guess he does. I've never really seen any interviews of him specifically speaking on democracy. Personally, I don't even think he should be Prime Minister. I think we should have a general election because technically this is like 0.003% of the whole UK voting him in. But the left will be happy with this. They're happy with socialism. They're happy with someone who was barely elected being Prime Minister, whilst people on the right are very strict on traditional democracy, which is the masses vote for who they want.
Well, except that the woman who founded the conference that you were at, Liz Truss, became Prime Minister in exactly the same mechanism as Andy Burnham did.
And I don't agree with that as well.
Rather than arguing over opinions, Lewis tests the principle itself. If democratic legitimacy matters here, should it also apply to Liz Truss, whose conference she's defending? It's a simple comparison, but it immediately raises the standard every future claim now has to meet.
And I just don't think that's a fair way. You're basically abusing the system. Not only that,
Palestinians doing that.
Yeah, so there was a lot of Palestinians
going back and forth.
Yep, I saw
from
this
Gaza.
with my own. Yep.
They can't get out of Gaza.
I literally saw this with my own eyes, and I was someone that was pro-Palestine. We need to free Palestine. But once I saw that, I said, "This
Generally
is quite
speaking,
suspicious."
I mean, Palestinians find it very difficult to travel to leave Israel.
I've come across, I would say, 5 Palestinians who managed to travel back and forth whilst also claiming asylum. Very odd. I don't know how they did it, but that was.
I think it's fair to say that if they were in Gaza or indeed in the West Bank in recent years, it's probably unlikely they would be travelling back.
I literally saw it with my own 2 eyes.
But they wouldn't travel back to Gaza because you can't get in.
I literally saw it. I don't know what you want me to tell me. I don't know how they got there, but we would tell them.
But you wouldn't want to go back to Gaza, would you? Because you'd be smashed to bits by the IDF.
But they went back. I don't know what you want me to tell me. I think maybe you should get them on the panel next time and ask them why they travelled back or how they travelled back.
I'd love to.
This is where the interview becomes much more evidence-driven. Lewis isn't accusing her of lying. He's simply asking whether an extraordinary claim can withstand basic scrutiny. Once specific details are requested, confidence alone is no longer enough.
Illegal immigration is literally illegal and you've committed a crime. Things like protecting your borders, things like waving the English flag now that's being seen as racist and demonised for it. I was attacked at a pro-Palestine march for having my Union Jack on. And
I don't know. I don't know, Base. I mean, I know what you mean. There is a particular bit of the online left or whatever who might say that. But I mean, you travel around the country over the last few weeks, all you'll see is England flags.
Sorry, can you
I say, or if you've travelled around the country the last few weeks, all you'll have seen is England flags. It doesn't feel to me like a country where flying the England flag is now not right or
and that's another thing
bad.
I wanted to point out. The only time it's somewhat appropriate to fly the England flag in masses is when it's the World Cup, when it's a game. But when people fly in the flag simply because they're proud or flying the flag...
We've just never been a big flag-wearing country, have we? And you talk about things being normal.
The United Kingdom march, it was demonised for absolutely no reason.
Well, I think there are other things that the United Kingdom march that made that more controversial. Well, like Elon Musk calling for the violent overthrow of our government. Yeah.
I don't agree with any violence.
I mean, that's bad, right? I mean,
yeah.
The discussion now shifts from personal experience to national identity. But Lewis draws an important distinction. Feeling that something has changed isn't the same as proving that it's happening on a wider scale.
Silence, and that's why people almost feel the need to stamp them up. For example, the perfect case of this would be what happened with Southport. You know, a man literally massacred children. People went out and said this is horrible, and they were arrested for it.
But how is that British culture being undermined?
It is being undermined because, first of all, British culture does not care for terrorism. For us, terrorism is absolutely unacceptable. And not only
but no one was arrested for saying that murder was horrible. They were arrested for violence.
Lucy Connolly was arrested. She didn't actually commit any violence. She simply just said this is not okay. I don't agree with her statement where she said we should burn the hotels down. And she also took that back.
She said burn asylum hotels for all I care.
And she took that back and she also deleted it.
Sure.
Notice how the focus changes again. The argument begins with British values but quickly narrows to a single legal case. Lewis keeps pulling the conversation back to one question. Are these examples actually proving the broader claim?
For simply criticising the government.
Freedom of speech has some impediments, doesn't it? And ultimately, she wasn't imprisoned for criticising the government. People do that.
She was imprisoned for?
People do that all the time. She herself pled guilty. She herself pled guilty, which rather implies that she had something, did something wrong.
Have been a case. This is her
she
expressing
said that
herself.
Hotel full of expressing yourself, saying that a hotel full of kids should be burnt down.
And she deleted the tweet.
Fine.
And she was frustrated.
But that's not British culture. It's not British culture to call for or appear to endorse the idea of violence.
And it's also not British
the sort of culture
to
that I
try
want
to
to live in.
silence someone. It's also not British culture to try to silence someone
Inciting
and put
violence?
them in silent and putting them in prison
Inciting
over a
violence?
Deleted tweet.
Inciting
that is absolutely
violence?
ridiculous.
Do you think that that's a key plank of British culture?
She had less than 1,000 followers. How can she incite violence? She wasn't that influential at the time, so she definitely wasn't inciting.
It was retweeted thousands and thousands of times. That's why.
I'm pretty sure nobody would look at Lucy Connolly's tweet and say, "Let me go." And if they did, they would be psychotic to do that. But either way, I just think that people should be allowed to say what they want, especially if...
This exchange explains why the opening clip mattered. The disagreement isn't really about whether free speech is important. It's about where the limits should be drawn, and whether those limits are being applied consistently rather than emotionally.
And
it's about your ideas. It's about your ideas.
And my brand is so far from individualistic. It's more about family, community, country, Christianity.
You called attendees, I think, of Pride degenerate. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Why is someone attending Pride a degenerate?
So not everyone who attended was degenerate, but the people who were acting degenerate, absolutely. For example, I saw half-naked men with their, excuse me for using my language, balls hanging out whilst their children around. That's absolutely degenerate.
Degenerate has a very, very negative connotation with regards to this very terrible pedigree with regards to gay men, doesn't it? The idea that they're lesser human somehow, not real men. Do you think that it's a very wise choice of term? You could say that you don't like it, you could say that it's wrong, you could say that it could be stopped, but I think you know what you're doing when you say degenerate.
I think degenerate is the perfect term to describe someone who's being degenerate. So there was many gay people that I spoke to who were so lovely to speak to. I even took their numbers and we agreed to have conversations. But the people who were literally acting degenerate and the people that were saying paedophilia is okay, that is degeneracy. And I don't think...
How many people there did you see saying that paedophilia is okay?
There was 3 people who came out and said that paedophilia is okay.
The conversation now moves away from politics and into language itself. Lewis isn't only questioning the opinion. He's questioning whether the words being used communicate the intended message or something much broader.
In those words, so they literally told you paedophilia is okay.
Yeah, they said that.
And of course that would mean that they were endorsing a crime, which means they could subject themselves to legal action, which is something that you previously said you didn't think was a very good idea. But in that case, you would think it was a good idea.
But I think it's just degenerate. Like, my whole thing is that it's degenerate. And I don't know what you want me to do. Apologise for that.
Well, I think there are a lot of gay people listening who would really, really profoundly object to the idea of...
Like I said, not all gay people are degenerate. I have friends who are gay and I absolutely love them to death and I would trust them with my whole life. But if you're acting degenerate, I don't care if you're straight,
I mean, your video is called...
trans,
your video is called Speaking to Degenerates at Pride.
Yeah, so I spoke to degenerates and I captioned it the degenerates.
So we're talking, so how many would you say at Pride were degenerate? Like as a percentage?
From the people that I spoke to, because there was hundreds, I would say they were like the 3 people who said that paedophilia was okay. I would say they were the degenerates.
So just the 3 people?
Yeah.
I think most people would agree that they would be terrible people. So just for the absolutely clear, and for the sake of the record, you don't think that gay people overall are degenerate?
This is one of the interview's most important moments. Rather than debating intentions, Lewis focuses on perception. Public language isn't judged only by what the speaker means, but also by how a wider audience is likely to understand it.
That you're talking about gay people overall, and maybe that's a good idea to be rather careful about what one puts online and the language that one uses.
Can I be completely honest with you? I don't really care, just because I meant what I said.
It's a very 2026 view.
Yeah, I'm talking about the degenerates.
I'll say what I like, and I don't give a damn.
Whoever wants to assume that I'm talking about all gay people, if that makes
not unreasonable.
Whoever wants to assume that, then go make yourself unhappy and think I'm talking about you, but I'm talking about the degenerates. I don't know how much more to clear that up. But like I've said again and again, not all gay people are degenerates. It's the degenerate ones that are degenerate. And if you think I was speaking about you, that's your own insecurity.
Did you report to the police the people who said that paedophilia was okay?
No, I didn't.
Might be something to do.
No, I wouldn't. I don't agree with reporting people to the police.
Well, even if they're saying that paedophilia is okay, they could be a danger to children.
No, I didn't do that. Sorry. I just didn't get the time to do that. And I don't even think the police would do anything about it.
Well, we'll never know.
Yes.
Based, such an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for coming in. Real pleasure.
What made this interview compelling wasn't that either side dramatically changed their position. It was the way Lewis Goodall approached the discussion. Instead of interrupting or trying to score points, he repeatedly tested whether the same standards could be applied across different examples. That method exposed several moments where broad claims relied more on personal conviction than on evidence that could be independently verified. At the same time, the guest remained consistent on some principles, particularly her criticism of how prime ministers can take office without a general election. But elsewhere, the debate became much harder to defend. Claims based on personal observation were challenged with practical questions. Generalizations about political groups were measured against individual examples. And language that was intended to target specific behavior had to be defended against how it could reasonably be interpreted by a much wider audience. Perhaps the biggest lesson from this exchange is that confidence alone doesn't decide a political argument. Viewers are often persuaded less by certainty than by consistency. When the same principle is applied evenly, it tends to strengthen an argument. When exceptions begin to appear, even unintentionally, those arguments become much easier to challenge. Rather than relying on confrontation, Lewis allowed the discussion to reveal those tensions naturally. Whether you agree with his conclusions or not, the interview demonstrates how careful questioning can expose the difference between a strongly held belief and a claim that can consistently withstand scrutiny. What did you make of this exchange? Did Lewis Goodall genuinely dismantle the arguments through careful questioning, or do you think the guest defended her position effectively? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy calm, evidence-based political breakdowns, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next analysis.